Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
Once again, I continue to be in a state where all I want to do is punch very specific people. As you and I were talking about for the show, I really wish that some people would live up to their family destiny sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be fun. Take a ride.
But hey, at least the news isn't all bad. Switch 2 pre-orders are available now in the US.
Okay, yeah, what's the price of the Switch now? $700?
No price increase. No price increase. It's still $450 or $500 if you get it with Mario Kart World. So
all right.
They did jack up the price of the accessories to compensate for the Chinese tariffs, but
yeah,
the console's still the same. Yeah, we got that going for us.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get right into it. There is plenty to talk about. So first up, Maryland, the greatest state in the union. I will stand by that. We got the best senator. Chris Van Hollen goes down to El Salvador and actually meets with Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia, and we get proof of life. Thank goodness.
And not only that, but in what's developed after the meeting, our Garcia's been pulled out of the fucking gulag, out of the fucking CECOT prison, into like a regular facility where he like it's not like I said, not like a fucking gulag, and the administration now appears to be actually listening to the judge in his case and actually working on getting him brought back to the country. Why? Because Chris Van Hollen said, hey, if Bukele's not going to meet with me while he's up here and provide proof that this guy is safe and is being properly taken care of and stuff like that, then I'm going to go to fucking El Salvador. And he fucking went and he met with the vice president of El Salvador, and he basically was like, yeah, like I'm not fucking leaving until I talk to this dude. Yep. And he did. Like I said, he arranged an in-person meeting with him. I did find it funny that Bukele's goons tried to like stage the meeting to make it look like they were like sipping margaritas and shit like that. When
look how easy this guy has it.
Right? Yeah. It's just a pathetic.
Right. It's really dumb because it's like, okay, look how easy he has it. Then is your argument that you're sending criminals down there to have an easy does it fucking situation? Like, which one is it? That doesn't make sense. The White House also at the same time, they released, after all this time, like, here are images of, he's got, tattoos on his knuckles. That obviously means he's an MS-13. Look, I don't know anything about MS-13 as far as like what tattoos they have, right? Those guys are pretty fucking scary. I'll happily admit that from here, right? Which I guess maybe I might be in a closer situation. So yeah. Whatever. Those guys are fine with me. I don't want anything. I don't want any fucking smoke with those dudes. But here's the thing. They're like, oh well, this thing stands for the M. This is an S. And then he's got a skull, and that's the S in MS-13. And as somebody quite smartly pointed out, why would the skull stand for the S? Skull in Spanish does not start with an S. Like it starts with a C, right? So it's like, why would they do that? Like, okay, look, and look, maybe they're really clever and they're trying to hide it. I doubt it. I've seen the MS-13 guys. They have MS-13 tattooed across their chest in giant letters.
Here's the other thing. The tattoos that was in the picture that Trump,
I don't even think they're real.
They're not. They absolutely altered the photograph.
I didn't even think they were real. Of course.
Yeah.
So
they're not.
Again, if you believe that this guy is such a criminal, why do you feel the need to lie? Like, if you're so correct, why do you feel the need to lie? Gee, it's because you're not correct. And you're not correct. Pam Bondi's been out here saying, oh, if he's brought back to the U.S., we'll deport him again. No, you're not. Like,
I mean, and look, maybe they will. But again,
that's a really fucking poor idea, by the way.
Well, it's a poor idea, but again, like, people, like, the White House is obfuscating the point. The point is not that, like, you deported the guy. I mean, it is, because you said that you made a mistake when you did it. But the point is that you did it without providing due process to this person.
Right.
If he stands in front of a judge and it's determined that like, yeah, like he doesn't need to be here anymore, send him back to El Salvador, that's going to fucking suck. But at least he had his day in court as it was. Like that's the bigger issue at hand here. And Democrats that have argued about this have been very consistent in talking about like, hey, like that's why like when they're sitting there talking about, you know, oh, like he might have done this or the like. Obviously, JD Vance, like, oh, he's a felon. He has traffic citations or whatever. Like a couple weeks.
Really,
ago.
bro? Like that's it. Come on.
Yeah, that's your justification. The consistency in the argument has been no. It's about because you violated his due process rights and the due process rights of all the 250 other people that were sent down with him as well.
Right, and look. The right is really weird, right? Because for a number of reasons, but they're really weird because they are making this argument of like, well, this guy's he's no saint. No one said he is. No one said he is. It's the same argument the right made about, like Freddie Gray or Michael Brown or any of these other guys who've been killed by police and stuff like that. Well, they're no saint. Okay, but we don't live in Mega City 1 and you don't get to be Judge Dredd, right? Like it doesn't matter if the person, even if the person is a murderer, they have right to a fair trial if you capture them not murdering, right? Like, and you go, cool, we put you in jail and then we have a trial. Like this idea of like, well, they're a bad guy even by our argument, so we get to just throw away their constitutional rights. That's not how the world works, or that's not how the
and again, they're flailing because on the same day that Van Hollen went down there, the murderer, who is a Hispanic male, who killed this woman named Rachel Morin, was sentenced in her crime, and the White House brought her mom to speak to the press, and basically just for this mom to shit talk Chris Van Hollen, like, why are you going down there to advocate? And I'm like, he didn't kill your daughter. Like, just because some other Hispanic person killed your daughter doesn't mean that we're going to throw out the due process rights of this guy for a completely unrelated situation. Like, I'm sorry that your daughter was murdered. Like, that's fucking tragic. But why are you allowing yourself to be trotted out here to basically say, like throw this dude in the fucking under the jail for no reason whatsoever? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's two reasons. I don't know anything about that story. I bet I could guess the race. But it's racism, right? Like that's a part of it. Mm-hmm. You're also taking advantage of a person who is really hurt, right? And when people are really hurt, they are malleable to fucked up things, right? A case in point, the guy who's like the father of the white kid who got stabbed by some black kid at a track meet or some crazy shit like that, right? The Proud Boys were like all over that story, and they're like, oh, we got to defend the white race and all that stuff. And they got on the phone, some head of the fucking Proud Boys or whatever, got on the phone with the dad of the victim, and they're like, do you stand with us or whatever? And he's like, I'm sorry, who are you? And he's like, oh, we're from the fucking Proud Boys. And he was like, I don't fucking stand with you. Fuck you, dude. Like, he's like, no. And he's like, and then immediately the Proud Boys guy is like, you're not defending your son. That's why your son ended up like this. You don't defend the white race. You're a pussy. And you're just making more victims, blah, blah. And he just immediately turned on this guy. He just lost his son because they were trying to exploit. They thought that they could exploit his pain and his suffering.
Because all he is to them is a means to an end. He's not an actual person, and they don't care about the things that happen to him.
And even in that guy's fucking, I'm sure unbelievable hurt and distress, that guy was like, I don't stand with you. Get the fuck out of here. Like, right. But that woman was probably very easily malleable in those moments. And look, she may hold those like racist fucking views, right? Like very easily. I don't know. But that's why they do it. It's the same reason why, religion goes after kids. You're more malleable when you're a child, right? It's the same. You're more vulnerable. Like it just is. That's just true. So, yeah, I mean, look, Chris Van Hollen has done something that I think takes real balls. It does. It takes real balls. I did appreciate that the vice president of El Salvador was like, Van Hollen's like, why are you keeping him here? Mm-hmm. And dude was like, we're being paid by the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Straight up, dude.
probably wasn't supposed to say that.
So. Yeah, probably not. To me, that's the linchpin to a lot of this. Trump's like, oh, we can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And, the El Salvadorian president, oh, we can't do anything. No, you can. You just want money. And so you'll just do any sort of like Gestapo fucking horseshit that you're doing. And you don't give a fuck because you're just paying them to just, toss people and make them go away. So it has nothing to do with authorities in different countries. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with we are paying him. Guess what? If the payments stop, how many American citizens are going there? Zero. Zero. So
100%. And by the way, I think it's also worth pointing out here that we found out yesterday that another man, a 20-year-old who also happens to be living in Maryland, also was incorrectly deported down to El Salvador. So now another federal judge has ordered the administration to try to get this person back, whose name we don't know. They've only been identified as Christian in court documents. But again, same thing. They said, oh, like this guy is a gang member. We're going to take him down there. He was in the U.S. He's been in the U.S. for a couple of years as an unaccompanied minor, seeking asylum from El Salvador, and his asylum status was still pending. But they just took this guy and picked him up and fucking scooped him up with everybody else because he fit the profile. And now we're trying to get this gentleman back as well.
Yeah.
So and again, you're seeing this is all very deliberate, as we've been talking about. There's another story that came out last week where a man who had been trying to get his citizenship, who had been in the country legally for a really long time, finally gets this call out of the blue to come in and start filling out his documentation for his citizenship for the country. And this guy, like, his first thing was excitement, and then he's like, wait a second. He's like, something like this seems a little too convenient. So he actually had the forethought to scoop up, to bring his friends with him and have them wait outside of the building and film what was going on. And he's like, sure enough, I get in there, I'm talking to the guy, the guy of the citizenship thing. All of a sudden, like halfway through, he has to excuse himself. He leaves the room, and then 2 minutes later, here come these guys coming in, and they march him out of the building to try to get him thrown out of the country. And his friends caught this shit on film of them doing this shit. And again, very deliberate. That is a tactic. Like, this guy was picked as the scapegoat by the Trump administration, even though he's here legally, even though he was trying to do the things that they say, gotta do it the right way.
Why are you kicking that guy out? Why are you kicking that guy?
He's trying to do it well, because they want to make sure that they show these people, like, hey, even if you're here legally, and even if you're trying to do the right thing, you're still not safe. And so it's scaring people away from legally trying to gain citizenship.
One thing I'm very curious about is the guys who do this. The actual ICE agents.
Yeah.
I wonder about them, because I feel like those guys seem to be doing this dirty shit, and who they are doesn't seem to be as big of a question. It doesn't seem to be getting put on full blast. And I think it's because they're doing this. It was because they're doing this without identification, wearing masks, not identifying themselves upon this. Like they are deliberately staying very hidden. And again, I'm not a big fan of like doxing people or hacking people or stuff like that. But if there was an altruistic internet cyber sleuth that maybe wanted to dig in to find out who some of these boots on the ground stormtroopers, for lack of a better word, that are carrying out these illegal deportations or illegal, like, scooping up people off the street, and maybe blast their shit all over the internet and make these guys feel a little scared for their well-being and their families. I don't know that I'd had too much of a problem with that. No, I wouldn't either. No, you're what you're doing is, like, it's one thing if you're like, hey man, we're grabbing like gang members who are doing, dirty shit. We're grabbing these guys and giving them due process, by the way, not just shipping them out of the country. But like, it'd be one thing if you're doing that. Calling and lying to a guy who's getting asylum and trying to become a citizen in the ways that you say that's what you want, tricking him, then showing up to arrest him and fucking tossing him out of the country. That's a different type of fucking person who signs up for that. And so those people should be absolutely exposed. So, again, I'll say this every week. It's not a wish. It is inevitable. You have these guys not telling you who they are, walking around in plain clothes. People lie all the time and can say that they're a cop or they're from the government. You have no identification. You have nothing. You're going to find a situation where people start walking around armed, and you're going to get one of these guys shot at or killed. It's just inevitable. Hey, we're here to arrest you. Who the fuck are you? Oh, I'm from the government. No, the fuck you're not. And then you start fucking popping off at people, dude. It's inevitable. And then it'll be a woe is me. How could this have happened? I'll tell you. Because if you're going to do this shit, you got to be in uniform, man. You got to be in uniform. You got to be official in this shit. And you don't want to do that because you want this idea that it could happen. Anybody could get it type of shit. That's not a good idea. Now, of course, they don't care because they're scumbags, but you're going to put people in danger. By people, I mean your own guys. You are. Eventually, someone is going to be like, I'm surprised people have not picked up on this, but maybe they have, and we just haven't had a run-in with the right or wrong people. But I have to say, I would be shocked if people are not walking around with fucking weapons on them because they're like, I don't know who the fuck these guys are. It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
Especially, and I say this all the time, especially if you're grabbing up women off the street. I'm telling you, man, there's going to be a guy's like, what the fuck is going on? And they're not even going to think, and then they're going to react. And somebody's going to get killed. Yeah. Like, if you're in one of these, like, shit-kicking states where everybody can walk around with a fucking handgun under their duster, is what I imagine goes on there.
Yeah,
like
that's what's happening. Right? So.
They pull out their 6-shooters, right? If you're a guy, or a woman, and you see somebody just getting grabbed up by 2 guys, and you have no understanding of what's happening, yeah, you might fucking go, you know what? Here's my turn to be a fucking hero. And you start fucking popping off shots at these people. How would you know? I just saw someone getting abducted, dude. Like, I didn't have time to think about whether they were ICE or not because they're driving a fucking,
an unmarked white van. Yeah. So
that has candy written on the side of it. Like, what the fuck? Like, what do you think is going to happen? So,
right.
Again,
and
it'll be your fault.
And to kind of put a bow in the story, look, when you do stuff, when you set the example, as Chris Van Hollen did by going to El Salvador, you're going to inspire other people to get brave and do the same as well. And we saw that. So Ed Markey, Ayanna Pressley, and Jim McGovern all went down to an ICE detention center in Louisiana, where Rumeza Ozturk, when we talked about a couple weeks ago, who got picked up off the street for the crime of writing an op-ed against the Israeli bombing of Gaza. That was the crime that she committed that is causing her to lose her status, apparently. And then they scooped her up from Tufts University in Boston and shipped her down to an ICE detention center in Louisiana because that's logical in any way, shape, or form.
It's just a scary
right. But the three of these Massachusetts Congress folks went down there to check on her as well and made a big public thing about it. Also, Peter Welsh in Vermont. We talked about the gentleman whose name I unfortunately don't remember, who got tricked into like going to fill out a decision paper. He visited that person as well because he is a Vermont man. So he's one of his constituents. So again, Chuck Schumer, if you're paying attention, this is what action looks like. This is stuff you can actually do. Hakeem Jeffries, if you're paying attention, this is what action looks like. A couple other representatives went down to El Salvador as well. Democratic representatives to check on the conditions at this prison, stuff like that. They tried to go as an actual delegation. Of course, Mike Johnson did not grant them the authority to do that. But as Maxwell Frost said, well, good news is I don't need the speaker's permission to get on a plane. So I'm just going to go down there and go myself anyway, even though it's not an official federal delegation. And he and several other representatives went down there as well. So,
and this is the type of shit Democrats need to be doing. And by the way, it's easy to be like, well, they're just doing it for political reasons. Yeah, of course. That doesn't duh. But that doesn't also mean that they don't actually think that this is a good idea, right? They don't.
All the Republicans that are also going down to El Salvador officially to look tough in front of the fucking jail cell at CECOT, they're also going down for political reasons.
100%.
In case you weren't aware. So
yeah. Yeah, because I can hear people say, well, that's just for political reasons. Yeah, they're in politics. Like, it's all for political reasons. They're defending the Constitution, right? Like, things can be politically savvy and good for you and also the right thing. These two things are not, they're not mutually exclusive. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to get into news you need.
The negotiator stepped to the table.
Oh shit! Art of the fucking deal coming up. All right, news you need. Stop it, guys. Seriously, just stop it. Donald Trump pleads with Putin to stop attacking Ukraine. Quote: Vladimir, stop it. Oh my god. U.S. President Donald Trump pleaded with Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop attacking Ukraine after another set of deadly strikes rocked Ukraine's capital of Kyiv, urging him to secure a peace deal. Quote, I'm not happy with the Russian strikes in Kyiv. I love that he's wrote Kyiv in all capital letters. Does he think they're Roman numerals? I think that's what he thinks they are.
You know what? It wouldn't. No, I'm going to disagree because I don't think
like Russian strikes
he
on
knows
Kentucky 4. Like,
right, he knows what Roman numerals are, but he doesn't know like what they are. If you know,
that's correct. He probably knows the I and the V, and then he's like, the rest of it, it's all a mystery. Not necessary. Very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. Trump posted on his Truth Social platform on Thursday. I was told, and look, maybe I'm being a dick, but I was told that Trump was going to stop the war in Ukraine before the inauguration, is what he said.
Yeah. Just if I recall correctly, during the campaign, he alluded to the fact that just the mere fact of him being elected president would be enough to completely cut this thing off.
It'd be done. I do like that it's April 24th, and this article came out I assume April. Yeah, it came out today, April 24th. I love that it's April 24th, and now he's starting to get into it. Like, whoa, guys. Like, let's get into it. I yelled at Zelensky that one time to know he wasn't wearing a suit or whatever, and I made him, fucking apologize. But now, April 24th, baby, we're getting into it. And by the way, how am I doing it? I'm going to tell him to stop, but I'm not going to say it to his face. I'm going to fucking tweet it on my subpar Twitter machine, right? Like, he doesn't give a fuck. Okay, guys? Like, he doesn't care.
Well, not only does he not give a fuck, but again, we know where his loyalties lie. We know whose pocket that he's in, despite, like I said, it doesn't make any sense to me why the President of the United States it does make sense to me why the President of the United States needs to kowtow to the President of Russia when it's him. But I'm saying, like, in a normal adversarial relationship, this would not be a big deal. I mean, this is the weakest shit that I've ever seen, man. Like I told you and Andy, like this, in this post, he sounds like when we make fun of the people who go on Twitter and tag Donald Trump and are like, hey, Donald Trump, like, I voted for you, but these tariffs are going to make me lose my business and this, that, or the other thing. I'm just like, that's what this dude sounds like talking to Putin. Like a dude who has zero control over anything that's going on, and is just like begging this dude to save face for him, which is the insane part as well. Like he like, to your point, he doesn't give a shit about the conflict actually ending, but it's making him look bad that the conflict is still going on when he talked all this shit about how he was going to be the guy to put a stop to it.
I'm going to do it. It's a joke, right? Like, this is a joke at this point. The idea that anyone believes anything that he says, any campaign promises that he made that were seemingly remotely positive things, none of it has come to pass. None of it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm going to lower the prices of gas and blah, blah, blah. No. More than that later. He just straight up lied about it. I'm going to end the war in Ukraine. Lied about it. Like, I'm going to have
going to end the war in Gaza.
Yeah, the war in Gaza, lied about it. He's not doing anything. All he's doing is gutting the American, like, domestic system. He's destroying. Like, that's all he's doing.
And destroying our credibility around the world. Like actually destroying it. Like last time, it was pretty bad because he was like a joke and people are just like, wow, this fucking sucks. I can't wait until not Donald Trump is the president again so we can get back to normal. And the worry is now what he's doing this time, there might not be a normal to get back to when it comes to the rest of the global community.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, he's doing that. I saw this really. There's like a financial, like, he's a professor or whatever, he has a doctorate, and he talks, and he's like super plain spoken. I follow him. I can't remember his name right now, but he was like, Donald Trump is a moron, which I was like, tell me more. Okay, I'm listening. And he goes, listen, when you talk about government efficiency, you have to realize that since the 1960s, the size of the U.S. population has grown by 150 million people, right? Mm-hmm. He goes, but the federal workforce has largely stayed the same. Like it hasn't grown exponentially.
We talk about this all the time.
Right. And it's like
same thing with congressional representation, same thing with the federal judiciary,
none of those things have moved. For the most part, none of those things have moved. If you want to talk about efficiency, the government is incredibly efficient that it has been able to still do more things for 150 million more people with no massive increase in staff. So this idea of you're talking about efficiency, it's already insanely efficient. Now, are there things you could change, little tweaks here and there? Sure. But on the grand scale, it's incredibly efficient. There should be millions more federal employees than there really are.
And when it comes to government, when it comes to politics, you and I talk about this all the time vis-a-vis Democratic electoral politics, but it really does apply to the federal government broadly as a whole, is that everybody all the time is so willing to sacrifice the good or even the great in this case to chase perfection, which is unattainable all the time. And one of the reasons that Trump and Elon Musk and all these other fucking idiots have been able to get in here and wreck shop to the speed at which they've been able to do it is because no one goes to bat for the government. Like when Trump was out here saying hey, the government's fucked up and it's inefficient and we're wasting money and, we have too many programs there, the other thing, literally no, even Democrats will not full-throatedly stand up and be like, no, you're wrong. Actually, it's pretty fucking good, because they're fucking afraid. It seems like every time a Democrat talks about Doge, they have to curb their statement with, now I'm all for making the government more efficient, or I'm all for eliminating waste and stuff like that. But before, complimenting things in any way, but most of them should be up and saying, hey, actually the government is pretty fucking efficient and all things considered, limited waste, and again, to your point, certainly things that we can improve. Is there opportunity for a lot of slow moving bureaucratic red tape to be able to maybe be bypassed or sped up? Sure. Absolutely. Yep. Apparently that's a big topic of the new Ezra Klein book that I just got. I haven't got a chance to crack into it yet, but I'm very excited to read that and stuff like that. So obviously there are areas of improvement. Yeah. Sue me. Yeah. But to Social Security. Social Security has been around for almost 100 years at this point in this country. Yep. Social Security has never missed a check, has never anyone that's got applied for Social Security that is due it has gotten it when they've been supposed to. It's reliable as clockwork. Medicare, is it a pain in the ass? Sometimes, yeah, it absolutely is. But does it get in the hands of our seniors, and does it pay for their medicines? Does it pay for their healthcare? Yes. Broadly, yes. You have poll seniors, hey, what's your approval? Do you approve of Medicare, how it's running right now, or disapprove? And you're going to find an 81-19 split of people are yeah, Medicare, A-okay.
Yeah. And you can't find that in almost anything else.
Right.
It's just not a thing. But yeah, this idea of government is so bad and so poorly run and everything else. And it's outside of your bullshit narratives, based on what? Based on what? The one government agency that I would say you could legitimately say has a lot of problems and desperately needs approval.
Yeah, it's the one that Republicans will never touch.
Yeah, the fucking VA. It's the fucking VA where people are like,
oh, I thought you were just going to talk about the DOD in general.
Oh, well, that goes without saying. But I'm saying like the VA is a thing that clearly doesn't get enough funding. It feels like a thing that absolutely should. It's always given. It's largely put in the hands of people who don't know what the fuck they're doing, right? Who do not have soldiers or vets' best interests at mind, right? It is a thing that a lot of vets complain about. It's a thing that could be fixed. It could be. I would even make the argument that the VA may not even need. It's going to sound weird. May not even need to exist in the way that it is, as much as it needs to just be a carve out inside something like Medicaid, right? Like they just get the same sort of deals as Medicaid is, but if you're a veteran, you get dumped into a different pool, right? Like you don't need I would argue you don't need a separate agency. Why? Because Medicaid is incredibly popular, and people are like, and Medicare and Medicaid are both like, people are like, yeah, no, they're fucking great. It works really well. Just do that, right? But if you want to make it a separate thing, fine. It's fine. But then let the military run it, right? Like instead of making it a political thing, just let the military run it. Be like, all right, the second you retire, you get fucking shipped off into this other block. And we got all these like logistic nerds that we've been training for the last fucking 40 years. And those are the people who handle this shit. But often it's given to billionaires to run it, especially under Republicans, who just trash it. Because those guys have never served. So they don't give a fuck about veterans. Oh, what are we paying for these veterans to sit on their ass? Like these guys got shot in the butt, man, defending the country, you know? But they don't have any reverence for that shit. They just don't give a fuck, right? So I would make the argument that's a thing that could be worked on. The DOD is certainly one of them.
I'll tell you listeners out there, if you ever hear anyone in your life say that like, oh, the government needs to run more like a business, slap them in the face immediately.
Yep.
The government is not a business. The government does not exist to generate profit.
Yeah, it does not.
Or revenue. It exists to provide services. That is what the government is for. And services are not a money-making endeavor. Services are not something that you should be looking at a balance sheet at the end of the day to make sure that you're still in the black at the end of it. Services are something we pay for, and you get the thing you pay for. That's what a fucking service is. Yep. That's why Jay and I get so infuriated when Republicans talk about like, oh, the post office is losing money. It's fucking supposed to. Like that's the whole fucking point. Is to get you the mail. Like that's what it's there for.
Like, okay, they charge you for stamps. It's not even a matter. One, there's no way they make their money back on any of that, right?
They're not making money at all on stamps. You're paying for the stamps. That's what you're literally paying for. You're paying for
right, but those get like printed and what have you. But my larger point is like, and like, you know, obviously the postal company, you know, the postal service, like, okay, you pay for like a larger package, right, to get shipped to you, whatever. That money is like to break even. Like it is not to be like, woo, we're like fucking rolling in it. They're not competing with UPS. They're not competing with DHL or FedEx. That's not the fucking point. The point is that is in the Constitution. It is a service to keep the country alive. It is a lifeblood of the country to make sure that people can get communication, they can get packages, they can get food, they can get whatever they need.
And by the way, the fact that the post office does do parcel delivery is a good thing, because if the post office somehow ceased to exist and FedEx and UPS were the only, and DHL were the only companies delivering small packages in the United States, magically the price to mail small packages would increase out of nowhere. Why? Because there's not a public option that's forcing them to stay competitive in the marketplace. It's almost like we should apply that same mindset to other things that are a public good as well.
Well,
sorry to get all socialist on you.
Yeah. This guy supports universal health care and the post office. Put him in El Salvador.
What a fucking lib-cuck moron. Yeah.
Get off your fucking soapbox, Karl Marx. It's just it's so fucking stupid, because you're absolutely right. The post office is the exact perfect example. That's literally the public option. Like it literally is. It's like, yeah, but DHL and FedEx and UPS, they work really well. Yeah. And then sometimes you're like, I can't afford that. And it'd be nice to have the other option. You don't have to use it all the time. You're not forced to. You can pay for private mailing. It's fine. Right. But it's there. Like an old shoe. It's just there waiting for you, right? To throw at your kid. So yeah, it's
you really have gone native, huh?
Yeah, I've been down here to live. It is what it is. It happens. It happens to the best of us, and even me. So yeah, that's fucking insane. Speaking of financially stupid,
You want to know why I'm really in a bad mood this week? I'm really in a bad mood because of a story that we're going to talk about later, and because of tariffs. Let me tell you how full my life is of tariffs.
Yeah, because your job. Now we're going to not go away what you do. Brad imports fentanyl, so he's being tariffed. Well, Trump said he's going to put high tariffs on
as I've said before, I work for a distributor company or a wholesaling company who imports like 60% of our stuff from China. So let me tell you, it's been fucking spectacular to be at work for the past 2 weeks. Thanks to this fucking idiot.
well, Brad, maybe things are slowing down, just maybe. Terrified Trump flees tariff war after CEO's empty shelves warning. Here we go. This is lovely. So Donald Trump radically softened some of his most severe rhetoric after CEOs of the nation's biggest retail chains warned him of looming price raises and empty shelves. The CEOs of Walmart, Target, and Home Depot met privately with Trump on Monday and told him that although prices were steady at the moment, his trade policies could have a devastating effect within just 2 weeks with supply chains disrupted. This wasn't just about food, but he was told that shelves will be empty. The president was also reportedly spooked by investors' reaction to his threats to fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Stocks, bonds, and the dollar all slumped this week until Trump abruptly toned down his statements. This is dear CEOs, not the home or was it Walmart, Target, and Home Depot. Oh, these are all the idiots. You did this.
Yeah, you did this.
You did this. Yeah,
like Ken Griffin made news today because Ken Griffin's out here saying like, hey, like the U.S. economy is really fucking up right now. I'm like, Ken Griffin, how many millions of dollars did you contribute to get Donald Trump elected president? You fucking moron. Like you did this, dude. So I'm glad I can speak about this with a form of knowledge, because I don't think people listening, unless you work in similar industries, understand like how this should impact. So
yeah, I don't.
We haven't right. So we haven't actually seen like on like real end user on the ground tariff impacts yet, because they either have gotten paused or they haven't fully gone into place yet, or whatever's going on. So you've seen prices go up a little bit in some sectors and stuff like that, but no one's reacted yet to the 145% tariffs on the as far as on the shelf pricing. That hasn't happened yet. But here is what's happening. So right now, we had like once these tariffs were announced, we had a number of containers on the water. On ships, because when you order something from China and it gets packed into a container, it gets put on a cargo freighter, it takes like 45 to 60 days to get from China to the US essentially. So like those were already in transit, can't do anything about those. They're coming. We got to figure this shit out. What we did also do is we told our Chinese manufacturers, hey, don't ship anything else until we tell you.
For the love of God.
So basically, like all the shit that's in China that could have gotten loaded onto a cargo container is going to sit there until we figure out exactly what the fuck is going on. Because new shipments are not coming from mainland China constantly, shit at the ports in the US has slowed down tremendously. I don't know if you know much about port workers, but if there's no work to do, they don't really work. They don't fucking get to sit around and fucking do nothing. If you're like a stevedore or you're unloading and stuff like that, like you need cargo coming in to do that. Here's another problem. If there's no containers being unloaded from ships, there's no containers being trucked across the country as well. So we're seeing trucking companies also freaking out because there's a lot less shit that's coming in, or like it's going on, the stuff to ship. And so like, holy shit, like our cargo loads are significantly lower than they've been for a really long time. So, right. And right now container pricing, is through the floor. Like when, I don't know if people know how containers work, but like when you get a container in China, you don't actually like just get to rent space on a container. You have to bid for it with other companies because there's a limited amount of containers. Well, since no one's shipping anything, containers are dirt cheap. So it'd be great if you want to ship something, but with 145% tariff, you're not going to make, like, you're going to lose that money anyway by the tariff when you import it into the country. And then once the tariffs level out, we get to like a sensible level of tariffs. All of a sudden you're going to see container prices go through the fucking roof, just like they did during fucking COVID, which is going to then translate into higher prices that you're going to pay because it's going to cost companies more to ship stuff into the country. Yep. So because this fucking idiot doesn't know what he's doing, and because this fucking idiot thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he's trying to wheel and deal, even though he's not actually making deals with other countries at all right now, in any way, shape, or form, we are going to be punished for it at the end of the day. And now it's at the point, because we've had this pause, because we've had this time where stuff is not coming over from China, and because companies don't know what to do because there's no consistency. Like he looks at this unpredictability as like a boon. It's a positive because he's keeping the other countries on the toes. But meanwhile, those of us that have businesses in the United States need to know what our goods are going to cost getting them in the country, and having someone who's willing to change on a dime and won't commit to a single strategy or won't, tell us what he's actually going to do is really fucking problematic. And at the end of the day, it is all going to fall down on the end user, because when it's all said and done, when all the dust settles, you're the person that goes to the store to buy that product, or to buy your iPad, or to buy like the manufactured product that has all the component pieces that come from China. You're the one that's going to get fucked over at the end of the day with this. It's going to happen sooner, inevitably it's going to happen. Yeah. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean that we are on a collision course for it. And again, because he's taken such a drastic step, it is going to hit us in some way. Whether that's the tariff increase, whether that's container shipping prices going up, all that stuff like that. And in the meantime,
the container thing, that's interesting.
Yeah, and in the meantime, logistics companies, trucking companies, people who unload, that sort of thing, they're getting fucked right now. Like they're the ones that are getting screwed over at the moment because there's nothing to transport because people have paused and stopped shipments in most cases. So guess what? Trucking, the number one profession in like every fucking state in the country, in case you didn't know.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
In case you weren't aware. Yeah. Well, think about how many containers of goods get transported across the country every day. So,
I mean,
I'm not mad. Don't put the
no. I find it humorous that people don't realize that their votes have ramifications. Everyone with a normal functioning brain was like, please don't do this. And these people were like, just keep going.
And it's funny because the whole time that like Scott Bessent, that poor fucking bastard, I actually feel a little sorry for him, like getting trotted out here to be the guy to face the firing squad all the time. Right. But this poor fucking bastard is like, hey, like we need to like worry less about Wall Street right now and focus on Main Street right now. Okay. Guess what? Wall Street, the big companies, they're the ones that can weather the storm.
Yeah, Main Street.
The small businesses don't have that luxury, don't have that leeway.
No, I saw a report. Basically, I wish I still had it up on my phone. This guy was like, "Look, I literally cannot afford to like import. Like I have these things that I'm ready to buy for my companies, like feed or some shit like that. He's like, I literally can't because I cannot afford it because of the tariffs. It has now been priced out of. I've been basically priced out of it, and I need that to run my business. Like that's the most simplest thing to understand, and it's fucked. So he's like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, why don't you just buy it locally? Here's the thing: if I could do that, I fucking would. Like, but I can't. Like the price, even in domestically, if they even have the thing.
Well, that's
more expensive than even with the fucking tariffs. Like it can even be that high. So
and that's the other thing that people fail to understand is you and I have been talking for the last several weeks about how ridiculous it is to have like a goal to bring a lot of large scale manufacturing back to the United States. Not only is it dumb to do it, but I was listening to Tom Friedman, and Tom Friedman sucks generally. Like I'm not a big Tom Friedman guy, but he does go to China a lot and has been on the ground to kind of see how they're operating. And look, they own the manufacturing game right now.
We see that
they literally do it better than everybody else does because they have refined and they have made this part of their society. So even if we do bring manufacturing on that scale back here, we're not going to do it as good as them unless we do what we did with Japan in the 1990s and bring them into the country and allow those companies to operate on U.S. soil so that we can learn from them, which is never going to fucking happen with the current political climate that's out there right now. I mean, China's so fucking good at this shit. I learned about something I didn't know about. Do you know what dark factories are, Jay?
No, I've never heard of that term.
So China has thousands of factories that are called dark factories. And the reason they're called dark factories is because they are entirely automated. So they don't even turn the fucking lights on. They just let the machines do all the manufacturing, and then they have an engineer that comes in for like 2 hours a day to make sure that shit's working correctly, and then fucking turns the lights out and fucking like that's where China's at right now. with
but we should be good, right? Like
we'll spin that up in 2 months, no problem, easy,
no problem, easy. We'll get Doge on it, right?
Right.
It's amazing to me. It's just amazing to me the bizarre level of arrogance that people think running a country that is unbelievably focused on manufacturing, like that would be such an easy switch. There was some survey. It was like, how important do you think it is to bring back manufacturing to the United States? And it was like 50%. It said like, hell yeah, it's super important. And it was like, are you excited to work a manufacturing job? No. Like, and it's like well over like 60 or 70%. It's like, yeah, people like the concept of this, but nobody wants to work a fucking factory job. People who work in factory jobs now don't want to have to work in a factory job. Like they just don't. It's not a job that people enjoy. I love it.
And by the way, for those that don't,
and that's no offense to anybody who works in a factory job, by the way.
Yeah. Well, and here's the funny thing. So this is not a point that I considered till I saw it online recently. So you know how like retail like retail stores and stuff like that obviously has been dwindling down as the era of online commerce has moved up. So if you work in retail and retail jobs grow scarcer by the year because we're going the opposite direction there.
Right.
Where do you think you're going to go when this shit hits the fan? When they bring all these factories over here? That's where the millionaires and the billionaires are expecting you to end up, is in the factory, working those 10-hour days, breaking your back.
I mean, people look down on the people who work at Amazon. Where do you think you're going to be working in this new America where there's just factories as far as the eye can see? You, motherfucker, you sitting at the desk, like, with your tiny little hands putting phones together. That costs $9,000 now. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. So, it's a fucking joke, man. It's a real fucking joke. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about health and human services. And Brad and I are going to get real mad and get really, really mean. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a fucking moron. That's how I'll start the segment. I don't have a clip, unfortunately, where he talks about school shootings. I'll start there. He talks about school shootings and how it has nothing to do with the proliferation of guns in the United States. He's sure of that. He's sure of that because that's the part of his brain that was eaten by a worm, I think. Even though there are other countries that have tons of guns, or rather, they don't have a ton of guns, but they have tons of people, and somehow they don't have school shootings. Yeah,
it's weird.
His argument is that it's because of SSRI drugs, right? These are your, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, right? So your like Adderall or sort of any like
Xanax,
like antipsychotics or anything like that, right?
Antidepressants,
mostly
anti-anxiety medications,
ADHD medications would also be dumped in. They're not SSRIs, but they would dump them into that category as well. He thinks that those are what are the ramp up of school shootings. He had made the argument that he wanted to have these wellness farms or wellness camps, which sounds as draconian and dystopian as you think they do, where people would not, they would go to work on these farms, and they would not have their SSRI drugs, and this would help cure them. Because there's nothing that can help a person who has, schizophrenia or they're manic depressive or they have bipolar disorder. Nothing like a good hard day's work to really get that out of you. I guess if you're shoveling shit for fucking 12 hours a day at a farm, that will fix it. I cannot tell you how offensive I find that. That will only be easily surpassed by when we talk about the next part with RFK Jr. when Brad talks, which he has every right to be angry about. And I am angry by proxy on it. But I take ADHD medication. Personally.
Yeah, I take antidepressants personally. I didn't start taking them until about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm not going to go as far to say like they saved my life because I wasn't like in that bad of a situation. They have improved my quality of life significantly.
Right.
Improved my mental state and well-being significantly in the time that I've taken them.
My medication, significant, right? Significant. So also, when I saw that story, my daughter also has ADHD. I saw that story and I sent it to you and Andy and I was like, I will never move back into the United States as long as these fucking psychos are in power. I never will. My daughter needs her medication. She does. Yeah. There's no farm that is going to fucking fix this, right? It is something that you're born with, man. Like it is what it is. He's not a medical fucking qualified person on anything. On anything. Like
he doesn't even have the background. Like he was an environmental lawyer, which is not
right.
Like, does not give you the
and he eats roadkill. Is this the guy you're listening to?
Right.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So I want to, and this definitely folds into the next part of the story, which we'll get to in a second. But I just want to point out. So we have learned more about the human brain in the past, I would say 100 years than we had in the entirety of human history
right
up to that point. And we still know nothing about how the human brain fucking works.
I mean, like, this idea, like listening to people talk about things like ADHD and, depression and, bipolar disorder and stuff like that in these such like flip it ways when they don't suffer from these issues makes me crazy. I'm like, you don't know.
No, it's because that ADHD medication, Jay. That's
right. That's what's making me insane.
Right.
Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't. And I'm going to play a clip of RFK Jr. and then I'm going to tell you what somebody said in response to this, which I think is an amazing response, and it's absolutely true. So I'm going to play this clip because he's a fucking psychopath. Like, he really is. And his thought process is that of a person whose brain has been eaten by a worm. Like, it really is.
And these are a broad category, the ones that Marty mentioned, like ADHD, the neurological disorders, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, and autism. All of these are injuries that I never heard of when I was a kid. They were not part of the nomenclature. They weren't part of the dialogue. There was zero spent in this country treating chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today it's about $1.8 trillion annually. It's bankrupting our nation. 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. Oh, how are we going to maintain our global leadership with such a sick population? We have all these autoimmune diseases, these exotic diseases. And again, I never heard of juvenile diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, and 100 others that were just
Okay, couple of things. You never heard of these things, so therefore they're not true. They're not valid.
I'll tell you the response I saw to it that and this isn't like a flippant response. It kind of illustrates the problem, and it makes RFK look like the fucking dummy that he is. He's saying, "Oh, like this. None of this stuff was around when I was a kid. I didn't hear about any of this stuff growing up. This or the other thing." And a response that I saw to it was like, "Yeah." And what's weird is that like all of these planets existed once we invented the telescope.
Right. The fuck are you
It's not
talking?
because they weren't there.
Right.
It's because we learned about them for the first time.
Right. And by the way, the response I saw that was really great was like from that video. I had never heard of any of these things, and all these crazy ailments. And someone goes, "Your aunt was lobotomized and put into a home. What are you fucking talking about?" She was, by the way. She had depression, right. And her family was like, put an ice pick in her fucking brain, and then they just shipped her off.
Because that's what they used to do back in his day.
Right.
When people had issues like he's talking about, they would send them to the sanitarium.
Right. Hey, stand right here. Bink. Go in the right. Like for the rest of your life. Now, here's the thing. He says, and look, there's tons of things that he says that are fucking insane. But one that really just struck me as crazy. All these autoimmune things that we never heard of, like lupus. Bro, lupus was established in 1904. Maybe you didn't hear about it because you were too high on heroin in high school. Like it existed, man. Like, we knew what it was.
And also like, there's all these diseases that I never heard of. Did you realize that like global travel, the ease of being able to travel between countries and populations that didn't interact with each other at scale now interact a lot more, is going to also increase the spread of diseases that aren't maybe local to one place or another.
Right. Right. I mean, there's, and not even diseases, but just, certain disabilities too, right? Like people, obviously there is a, hereditary element to autism, for instance, right? And, there is a theory, it's a theory, right? Is that there is seen as an increase. I mean, we're much better at diagnosing sort of spectrum disorder at this point. Like that's 100%, a large part of it. But the other is like people have traveled more. So people who potentially have these traits have met other people who potentially have them. So then they have children and there's a higher rate because if everybody stayed in their little town, well, guess what? Like the populations are, the gene pools are a lot fucking smaller. People travel the world and everything else. Just because unlike, reality, unlike what he says is like everyone who has autism spectrum disorder can't feed themselves and all that stuff. That's not true. That's not true at all. Elon Musk, for instance, has ASD. He's fucking the government up right now. Like he's your guy, right? So like this idea that you cannot function or is deeply offensive.
Well, and so that leads us into
this is the shit. I when I was reading it, I was like, I could feel the heat coming off of Brad's skull hundreds of or thousands of miles away. I mean, I knew you were.
So this motherfucker gets up on a fucking stage and talks about because his grand strategy is, by September he's gonna figure out what causes autism.
Cool.
Because all the scientists that have been trying to figure it out for the last 30 years, the real thing that they were missing was just a deadline. Like if only someone had
just locked them down,
a hard timetable on this, they could have figured it out so long.
You guys figured out whenever. By the way, why don't you call over to the National Cancer Institute and be like, you got till June, knock it out.
Yeah, like, you better figure that shit out. You better figure that shit out. We need to have an answer. Spoiler alert: the answer that he's going to give is me vaccines. Just FYI,
100%.
I don't want to tell you the end of the book before you get there yourself. But we all know at the end.
Right? Don't read ahead.
But this fucking guy is sitting there, and he kind of gives the game away in the clip that Jay just played, where the first thing he mentions is like, we have 74% of kids who aren't going to be able to serve in the military. Like, oh, why is that a problem? Oh, because that's all you guys fucking care about.
Yep.
That and reproduction. Those are the only things.
Reproducing.
But he's sitting there. But he sits there and gives a speech about how they like we have to feel terrible for these kids because they they'll never go on a date, or they'll never play baseball, or they'll never play an instrument. They need assistance using the toilet, and they won't have a job, and they won't contribute to society, and they're going to need constant care
and they destroy families.
Right. And basically saying, without saying it, that these lives are worthless, and therefore we must stop this from happening to these people because it's ruining the country. And let me tell you something. My son is highly autistic and ticks a lot of these boxes that he talked about. Is worth a dozen of fucking RFK Juniors. That fucking gravelly voice piece of shit. Yep. Like, dude, he will have a more fulfilling life than RFK Jr. ever fucking will, because he's not fucking dead bears. And by the way, I'm just gonna since they just make shit up and just treat it as fact, RFK fucked that bear. Just FYI, that's a fact that I heard happen. So RFK fucked that bear. So he's not gonna go fucking dead bears and traveling in his car with them and dumping it in Central Park and stuff like that. Spoiler alert, RFK, as far as I know, not on the spectrum, was stupid enough to do something like that.
Right.
Which speaks really highly of his intelligence, let me tell you. But to suggest that, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say that obviously it's difficult having a child with special needs. And obviously it's a little scary. I think all the time about hey, what is his adult life going to be like? How much care will we need? How are we going to be supported once he's out of school? And, he can't hold down a job, and he does need help to use the bathroom and stuff like that. So yeah, these are all things that I talk about. Would I rather not have to deal with it? Absolutely. But we do have to deal with it. And if you're the director of health and human services, your fucking job is not to try to demonize these people, and not to try to scapegoat these people, and not to try to use them as a fucking cudgel to prop up your anti-vaccine bullshit nonsense. Your job is to fund programs to make sure that the quality of life of these people will be significant, to make sure that these people get to live with the dignity that neurotypical people get to deal with all the time. That your job is to make sure that these families that you say, oh, these people tear families apart. And in some cases they do, because having a child that requires that much attention and is on special needs is stressful. It's really difficult. My wife and I certainly have had lots of difficult times and stuff like that, having a child with special needs. So your job as the HHS secretary, knowing these people exist, would be to help families better take care of things like this, not to fucking use them as a political prop to advance your bullshit agenda, because you want to advance science that has been thoroughly debunked. Let's make no bones about it. It is not that, oh, we don't know if vaccines cause autism. It has been pretty well proven that vaccines do not cause autism, despite the fact that there are many people out there that still believe this debunked science that it does. All of this came from one guy. There's actually a fucking fantastic video out there, and I don't remember the reporter's name who made this YouTube video, but I highly recommend you check it out. Where basically he kind of tracks the whole autism scare that was created by one doctor who was proven to be a fucking quack by the medical community, and he made up a bunch of bullshit. And there's nothing at all to substantiate this. How dare you fucking use people like my son to advance your shitty agenda? And, we talked the last time, when one of the listeners asked, hey, what can I do? What more can I do? And we said, you do what you can. And I mentioned the fact that hey, I'm fortunate enough that, I'm in a position financially where I can give money to causes that I want to. I don't have to get out in the streets every day and protest and that sort of thing. You want to get me out in the fucking streets? This is how you're going to get me out in the fucking streets.
Yeah.
This is the kind of shit that you're going to fucking do. And the final pin on it is that, again, RFK speaking totally anecdotally from his experience and people in his cohort. I don't know anyone my age that's severely autistic. Yeah, there's a reason for that. It's because people who have severe autism, people who have severe neurological disorders, tend to also have shorter lifespans. Because they can't take care of themselves in the same way. Because they can't communicate, health issues that they have. Or they're resistant to it because they have different tolerances of pain and things like that. And so things that you and I would have that are wrong with our bodies that we would say, oh, I need to go see a doctor. An autistic person either might not realize that that's something that needs to happen or doesn't know how to effectively communicate that so that things that are diseases or illnesses or other internal issues that would normally be discovered and treated for the neurotypical person, autistic people that are healthy autistic that are nonverbal can't do that. And so they tend to live less long than neurotypical people, which is a fucking tragedy. But you're going to sit there and be like, oh, like this is bullshit made up, fucked up science because I don't know anybody in my 70s that's severely autistic. Fuck you, dude. I severely fucking hope that you get what's coming to you.
Yeah.
I hope that you live up to the Kennedy name in every way, shape, and form. And you know what I'm fucking referring to when I talk about that. Fuck RFK Jr.
Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.